Hello everyone, today we're going to be checking out a set of QiYi's new budget cubes. Let's get right into it. So these 5 cubes are the newest line of QiYi budget cubes. All these are pretty reasonably priced. They're known as the QiYi MS cubes, and they're all magnetic. So we're getting some budget magnetic cubes with some pretty good performance. Let's go ahead and start with the 2x2. In the box there's a pamphlet. So first thing I'm noticing right out of the box is it is slightly looby on the outside of the puzzle, and the logo is printed onto the plastic. It's also extremely lightweight, especially compared to the Volk. That is really good actually, wow. Especially for stock. In typical QiYi fashion, we have primary internals, and we also have the standard double magnet 2x2 system. So comparing it to the Volk, it does look to be around 50 millimeters rather than the 51 millimeter Volk, and the biggest difference is the weight. Even though it feels really lightweight, it doesn't feel cheap. It still feels like a very high quality cube. It does sound kind of hollow in terms of the turning, but the feel of the magnets make it seem really sturdy. And overall, the turning is just really smooth. Right out of the box, the turning on this cube is papery smooth and slightly bumpy because of the magnets. I find that they're a very nice strength. It feels like it keeps the cube intact because it does seem like a lightweight, really fast puzzle, but the magnets help control that speed. It is probably a little fast for my liking out of the box, so I could see myself lubing this with some heavy lube, maybe some gravitas or weight 5. But beyond that, I feel like this could even be my main, and having been using a heavy cube like the Volk as my main for so long, this is like a breath of fresh air almost. Really solid puzzle, only $7 for a high quality magnetic 2x2. I'm really impressed. So let's move on to the 3x3. We have the same type of pamphlet in the box. Once again, a bit looby on the outside, but this is a sticker logo, so you can easily peel this off. Really fast out of the box, wow. Okay, so this is incredibly fast out of the box. I'm definitely overshooting a lot. The tensions do feel good though, but I think I would definitely need to slow this down with some heavy lube. So the overall feeling I'm getting from this cube right out of the box is it's really snappy, really fast, but when you're turning slowly you can feel that the magnets are actually a pretty decent strength, and they're keeping the cube, you know, moderately controllable despite the speed. Out of the box, the corner cutting doesn't seem to be that amazing. It can't quite do 45, but it does feel slightly on the tight side. I might even loosen it and then slow it down with thick lube. I think that might do the trick for this one. The reverse is pretty good out of the box, not anything amazing. So there is a little bit of catching and locking out of the box, and the turning of it is pretty loud and snappy, but I know this cube has a lot of potential. This cube is $8, so it ties the Yulong V2M as the cheapest stock magnetic cube you can get. Both of these $8 magnetic 3x3s are really fast, but at the same time, this one definitely seems a bit more crisp and snappy, while this one's a bit more buttery smooth and it flows like really effortlessly. Now granted, this one is set up by the Pro Shop and this one is stock, but those are just my initial impressions. All that just goes to say, the performance really isn't hindered too much by the price of this puzzle, so even though it's $8, it still performs very well. Now I probably wouldn't use this over a more expensive QiYi puzzle like a Volk, or even something from another brand like a WRM, which is my main, but at the same time, if you like that sort of fast, snappy feeling, maybe this is the cube for you. And this will probably be the cube that I'm recommending to most beginners trying to get into speed cubing. $8 for a pretty nice magnetic 3x3, that's a good deal. I do want to take a look at the pieces though, because they are pretty unique, especially this edge. The entire base of the edge is like smaller than the outer side of the piece. Very strange design. Beyond that, the foot looks relatively normal, but it does have a smaller internal piece. That's kind of strange. The corner looks pretty normal. You have some ridges on the sides here and squared off corners and this long foot here, and they fit together pretty nicely. You also have this ridge on the center cap, almost like a Weilong cube. That's pretty interesting. So let's move on to the 4x4. Same basic stuff, I'm assuming. Yep, pamphlet in the bottom. So the size of the cube does feel pretty large. Here it is next to a Moyu WRM. It is significantly larger, so if you like those tiny cubes, maybe this isn't the one for you. It's not as immediately fast out of the box as the 2x2 and the 3x3 were, but it does seem to be pretty smooth. The other ones were kind of dry and papery smooth, but this one feels almost a bit more like it has some more lube on the inside, because it is kind of a bit buttery smooth. The inner layers are ever so slightly slower than the outer layers, but I think that's pretty standard on 4x4s, especially with these stronger magnets. I can still turn pretty fast, although the tensions are really tight and I feel like I might be locking up a tiny bit because of that. When you're moving the layers by themselves, they're incredibly smooth. It's just that the corner cutting isn't the greatest out of the box. That said, for $12, you're getting a pretty smooth magnetic 4x4, good size, good quality. It might need a bit of setup. It can't just be used straight out of the box in my opinion, but it is pretty high quality for 12 bucks. I wouldn't say it's anything better than QiYi's 4x4, the Valk 4. This cube almost reminds me a bit more of QiYi's older 4x4, the Wutre, more than the Valk, just because it feels a bit more heavy and has kind of crunchy turning. But the turning is still light, even though the cube is heavy. It's really smooth and airy turning, so it doesn't feel like it's a burden to turn. We do have the split piece design used for this cube rather than primary internals with colored caps. So maybe that contributes to a slightly different feel than on the Valk 4, seeing as it had the primary internals. Overall, it doesn't make the feeling any worse. I still really like the feeling, and it's a great buy for only 12 bucks. Moving on to the biggest one of the bunch, the packaging is the exact same. The puzzle does slightly feel on the heavier side, especially compared to this Valk. And in terms of the size, it maybe looks like around 1 millimeter larger than the Valk. You know, this actually reminds me more of a Moyu 5x5 than any QiYi one in the past. It doesn't really feel like the Wushuang or the Valk, in my opinion. It feels like more rounded on the outside of the puzzle, like the Moyu 5x5s. This kind of feels more like an Aochuang GTS, or actually more like the MGC 5x5, because it is slightly more blocky. Ooh, actually, really sandy turning. It doesn't feel like they put any lube in this, actually. It's kind of interesting. And the cube isn't exactly the most stable out of the box. Like, compared to the Valk, I feel a lot more confident turning the outer layers of this cube, whereas on here, I feel like they're kind of getting away from me a little bit. Maybe it is the larger size I'm not quite used to, but it's not even that much looser. It might actually be even a bit tighter than my Valk, and it almost feels like a little rattly. I see these pieces, they don't look like they line up, you know? Like I need to push them together like this. I don't know, it doesn't feel the greatest. This cube is probably the most identifiable as a budget cube out of the bunch that I've looked at so far. The quality is not as great, but you're also getting this for $15. So a pretty good magnetic 5x5 for $15. I think it's a great deal personally, especially because the Valk 5 is $50. This one's $15. Now granted, the Valk is a better puzzle, but this one it's not that bad, especially having very little lube out of the box. It's surprisingly good for having no lube. It definitely needs it, and it's not like lubing it's gonna make it as good as the Valk, but for $15, pretty good. The corner cutting isn't amazing. I know it's a 5x5 and the corner cutting doesn't need to be that great, but when I compare it to my Valk, I mean, the Valk corner cuts like crazy, and this thing, you know, not so much. So it's a bit snappier, less soft on the inside. The Valk uses the split piece design also for the outer pieces. The inner ones are using primary with caps here, and as you can see on this puzzle, we're using solid color plastic the whole way throughout. Honestly, I don't know what difference it makes, but I figure I'll point it out. So let's look at the last MS line puzzle. This is the Pyraminx. Same stuff in the box. There's a little plastic insert for the Pyraminx holder and a pamphlet under that. So all the other ones had pretty glossy plastic, but this is pretty frosted. Maybe a bit harder to grip, but hey, we'll find out. Ooh. Wow. Pretty nice. I'm pretty impressed. The magnets are fairly strong. It does feel moderately reminiscent of the Bell. I don't think it has quite as strong magnets, and the tips are definitely a lot weaker than the Bell tips. These feel nice. Honestly, this will probably be my main. So I've been using this Kong's Design Pyraminx since before it came out as my main, and it still has ball bearings. It's really not that great. I just never really upgraded because I didn't like the Moyu magnetic one. But this one is pretty sweet. I like it a lot. It's a lot quieter, easier to turn, magnetic, and the tips have a nice magnetic strength to them. It feels pretty sandy smooth out of the box, but I could totally see using this like completely out of the box, like not even lubing it. But I don't do Pyraminx, so okay, let's test this out. Oops. Bam. I'm sorry if you're good at Pyraminx, that was probably really painful for you to watch. But I really like the feeling of this puzzle. It's really smooth and the corner cutting is great. I mean, like, I'm not locking up at all when I'm doing these sledges. And the size of it's pretty nice. It looks like a bit smaller than my Kong's Design Pyraminx. This one is only $9. I think that's a pretty reasonable price. Not insanely cheaper than the other high-end Pyraminxes, but it's a pretty good price and I really like it. So that's going to wrap up my initial thoughts on these new QiYi MS budget cubes. They are all magnetic, all very reasonably priced, and they're all really good performers out of the box. Overall, I was really impressed with the quality of all of these puzzles, especially the 2x2 and the Pyraminx. And the other three have definite potential, but I think we're gonna need to lube them and set them up a bit more before using them fully. So I'd like to give a huge thank you to TheCubicle for sending me all these puzzles to test out. If you'd like to buy them for yourself, I'll have links in the description below so you can buy all of these puzzles individually, but also if you want to buy them all as a bundle, you can get an additional 10% off of your purchase. So I'll leave a link for that bundle as well in the description below. Either way, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.